Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of AI After Hours. I'm your host, Katie Shive, and this podcast is dedicated to you, the people that are building their personal brands, learning AI, most likely after hours. Because can we be real? We also have day jobs. Now, if you have 10 minutes, I have one tip, hack, or tool that is going to help you learn how to implement AI into your everyday workflow. So, let's get into this week's episode. Now, I'm going to talk about something today that is probably pretty elementary in the beginning concept, but hang with me. I do promise that I have a story arc. So, I want to talk to you guys about the power of trust. Now, if you are in a service based industry that largely relies on referrals, for example, mortgage, real estate, financial services, consulting, all of those things, then you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, when it comes to people choosing to work with you, my guess is, and there's always the exception, but for the most part, people are not choosing you because you have the flashiest website, if you even have one. And they're probably not choosing you because you post incessantly all the time, although that is very important. But most likely, they're choosing you because somebody referred them and they saw your content after being referred, and something that you consistently said gave them the hunch that this person probably knows what they're talking about. I can trust them. Now, for some listening, that might be Uncle Dave at the dinner table. We all have one of those in our family, right? All right. So it is no different than how AI works. Now, before we get into the correlation, I actually want to give you a couple data points to tie this all together. Okay, so I pulled some stats, and Nielsen, maybe you've heard this, but Nielsen, which is a major research company, they found that over 90% of consumers trust recommendations from people they know more than any other form of advertising. So that means that they are going to trust the Uncle Daves of the world more than they're going to click and check your, Facebook ads or your Instagram ads or any other content that looks very corporate and spammy. Now, this has always been the case. We do know that referrals outperform ads, that reputation beats reach, and that familiarity is what is going to beat frequency. People do business with those they like, know, and what? Trust. Okay. We also know that people are 4 times as likely to take action when the referral comes from somebody that they trust. And if you're listening and you're in mortgage, another cool fact is JD Power found that borrowers who feel guided, not sold, are more than twice as likely to use the loan officer again for repeat business. So, what's the main point? Trust has to be the bedrock of your business. If you don't have trust, if trust doesn't come through in your content, in your videos, in your messaging, it's going to be hard or an uphill battle to continue to get loyalty and to fill your pipeline. Now, AI is no different. And here's where I'm linking the two together. Because a lot of times when people use AI, they just assume that if their information is somewhere out on the internet, that it is a solid source of truth and people are going to type in a question and keywords are going to pull out and, surface them to the top of the query. Now, that is not true. AI, which is actually, this is a cool part, AI removes all emotion. When somebody goes and asks a question, AI isn't going, oh, well, today I feel really happy and so gives me those happy vibes. So I'm going to refer them. No, it completely and purely relies on logic. And AI's entire goal is to not be wrong. So when it creates information and gives you an output, its entire goal is to match the best and most accurate answer with that specific question. So here's where trust comes into play. If AI can't trust you, based on all of the signals that you have online, it most likely will not refer you. Now, there's outliers like for example, going back to mortgage, most companies are going to give you an about page, right? If you're insurance, if you're a realtor, this is really similar as well. You're going to have an about page where they can apply or they can call you, what have you. Most larger companies will have schema, which is just a fancy word, but it helps LLMs, large language models, find you. Now, that's one piece that's really specific. If somebody is searching, who is John Smith in, Seattle, Washington? Most clients aren't searching that specific. They're asking questions like, who has the best car insurance rates? Or what happens if I've been in an accident and I want to get new insurance? Or whatever the question is, right? They're asking actual questions and not so much specific names for references. So the whole point that AI is trying to do is match the best information with the best output. So what it's going to do is go search, and it's looking for 4 key things. This is what it wants to do because its entire goal is to reduce risk. So it's looking for authority. It's looking for things like, does this person know what they're talking about? And then it's also looking for relevance. Are you consistently being associated with the right topics? For example, if you are an estate attorney, are you talking about, specific types of trust and probates and wills, or, 1031 exchanges? Like, where do you have specificity and expertise? There's relevance there. Okay, clarity. I know this is a buzzword. It's actually painfully overused. It's why I hate it, but it is the best word for what we're trying to say here. Are you clearly explaining complex topics in a way that people can understand? Now, a lot of industries have their own jargon. We have our own acronyms in the mortgage and housing space. Again, we are notorious for this. So we can talk about VOEs and DTIs and COEs and all the other LMNOPs, and LLMs don't care about that. They want to know, can the average consumer that's looking at this understand? Is what you're saying very clear? Okay. And then the last piece is consistency. Are you consistently creating content and putting things out there that reinforce, hey, I have authority. Hey, this is relevant and this is clear. Now, if you just have one post that was viral back in 2017 and you're still relying on that because it tracked really well with SEO, good luck. That's not going to help you in today's AI world. You have to be consistent. So, authority, relevance, clarity, and consistency. You want to focus on all 4 of those things. But the goal is not just to satisfy AI visibility. If you look at the core tenets of those 4 pieces, those make up just good content in general. You want to be consistent. You want to stay relevant. You want to show proof of your authority, and you need to be really clear in your messaging. So if anything, the rise of AI and content and all of the visibility tactics is just forcing people to create good content, which we should have been doing beforehand. So now this is just weeding out the good from the great. Okay, so the whole premise is trust. Now, we want to look at a couple of things. If, like I said earlier, if AI can't recognize you, it's not going to trust you. If it doesn't trust you, it's not going to refer you. So before we start thinking of, I have to have this elaborate content system and everybody's talking about GEO, which is generative engine optimization, and I need to be, coming up in search, those are valid desires and things that you need to be focused on. But before you start going and creating out like this huge kaleidoscope of content, you need to have a strategy and you need to make sure that you're checking those 4 boxes, and that all drives back to trust. Okay, so if you're listening to this and you're like, cool, I get the tie down between trust, my content, AI, and my personal brand, That should be really clear. But you might be listening to this going, I don't know where to start. I don't know how to do that. I don't really have a marketing strategy. I don't really know what my messaging foundation is. That's okay. That's actually one thing that I focus on and I specialize in is helping people take their zone of genius. What is it that you do really well? What do you do consistently that you're good at in person, but maybe you're not documenting and showcasing that online? Great. How do we unpack your story? What makes you unique? The clients you serve, why somebody should choose you over, XYZ down the street. So I have an experience and an offer called the Brand Builder. And essentially, what I do is I unpack all elements of your brand and your foundation. I call it a brand brain, is just kind of a side note. It really is that we're extracting the brain of your brand. It's your ethos, it's who you are, it's what you're already doing. You just don't have words to articulate it consistently and create the right signals. So, we look at all of that. And then what I do is I put that into a really comprehensive document that is great for both you, your team. If you work with any outside vendors that help create content for you, and or if you have a virtual assistant, think of it as the plumb line document that weaves through all of those people and those conversations so that any future content that you create, it is going to be brand aligned because it's filtering through the core of who you are and what you've identified. Now, when you have that and you want to go create content, especially if you have a strategy to help you rank with AI visibility, now it's much easier to say, okay, here is who I am. Let's build the authority. Here's my relevance. Let's talk about topics that align with my brand, not just what I think I should be talking about. And let's make it really clear because this is how I talk. And then let's make it consistent. Now, this is my strategy, driving the content, and then building awareness. So that is the power and importance of trust. And that is the foundation of getting your brand established first. Once you have those pieces in place, AI is going to be able to continue to see that, oh, you talked about this maybe on LinkedIn, and maybe you talked about this on YouTube. And now it's going to build trust because you have your content working for you, doing the heavy lifting. Okay, that's all I have for you this week. If you want to learn more about what I do with the Brand Builder experience and how that might be a really good starting point for you with content in 2026, I'd love to connect. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'll put it in the show notes below. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. If you're like, Katie, I don't even have anything started, that's okay too. That's actually even better because it's easy to start from ground zero and build in. So I would love to connect with you. Otherwise, I look forward to having you on the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's AI After Hours, and I'll see you next week.